We have some people here from Sierra Leone who want to cut diamonds in Sierra Leone. I think, where's the gentleman over there? The beard? Martin? Yeah, so get him up here, will you? Oh, yeah, get a mic, okay? Who's the guy behind you? That's fine also. Wherever you are, I want to hear a little bit about, I know that Ferrio, for example, has done an amazingly good job with Gem, you know, what is it called? Gem Field. No, Gem something. Gem what? Gem Fair. I mean, that's amazing. And, you know, we've done some work there with the village, but talk to me about what's going on the ground. What's it like? Is there a chance that you would actually be able to add value in Sierra Leone with the diamonds? Talk to me about what's happening out there in the field. All these pictures around here. They're diggers, right? Tell me something from the field.
Okay, and first off, this is loud. Before I really get going, I want to thank Martin for hosting these conferences over the last few years and keeping this alive. The panel has gotten bigger. Unfortunately, the audience seems to be getting smaller. And there was an interaction at the very beginning where it was retailers, and especially retailers, heavily involved in the discussion, very much like what we're talking about today. How do we know, what's the verification, what are the standards, and all of that. And to some of people's point here, it's good to have the discussion. On another level, this top-down thing it can get old and it can get rarefied. And, you know, I think it's really important that retailers be informed. I think it's super important that retailers inform the consumer. The consumer is the change agent for the entire supply channel. To Martin's point earlier this morning, if the consumers quit buying, we all go home. That's the end of it all. But having said all that, what we're trying to get together in Sierra Leone, it's a tough place to try and exact change. And there's been a lot of attempts to get miners more money, certified miners, and do all of that. And our notion is called Roots Diamond, and we're here with Foss Leby, who is a native of Sierra Leone. His family fled during the Civil War and came to the United States. He grew up in the United States. His best friend from childhood is still in the mud and still illiterate. And so he wants to bring back, he's finishing up his PhD at Carnegie Mellon in materials and development. So anyway, his vision is huge. And what we're focusing on now is trying to exact change on the ground level so that in the mining communities themselves, there's another option just in addition to mining. So perhaps we're talking about artisanal miners. This is not big deep level mines that can be roped off and all of that. This is hit and miss, and they move around, but the areas are pretty clear where the production's coming out of. And so our notion is to go in and at the grassroots level teach artisanal diamond cutting, not to bring in a big diamond cutting plant, but to get some local involvement, help them build the facility, train them in in Bow, in Kenema, wherever that may happen to be. And see, in my mind, I'm a diamond cutter for the last 50 years. In my mind, from the rough to the final consumer, the first change agent is the diamond cutter. The cutter changes rough to the gem. That's where the magic begins. That's where the rubber starts to meet the road. And myself, I learned how to cut diamonds 50 years ago. And it took me, I still cut diamonds. I love it. It grounds me. But it also made a career for me in retail, wholesale. I was with Hearts on Fire for 20 years. And I wound up being the diamond wizard who talked to the end consumer online and answered any question they had about diamonds. So I go from the wheel all the way to the final consumer. My partner, Mickey, he has that same knowledge at the wheel. He went straight from the wheel to Sierra Leone 50 years ago to start learning the mining process to see if he could buy, buyer's license, selling license, all of this stuff. So he knows the terrain in Sierra Leone quite well. He knows the dynamics, the social dynamics that you were talking about that are a restraint on trade. But the fact of the matter is that diamonds in Africa, particularly in artisanal areas, they're sold as a raw material. They leave the country. There is zero value added. It may be for money laundering, it may be for all kinds of different things, but it does not benefit the local community. It's a resource drain, if anything. And unfortunately, in the minerals community, they call it the minerals curse. You have this hole in the ground, you know, how many countries would love to have that hole in the ground that gives them the kind of income that Botswana has, for instance? But it doesn't last, and it needs to be diversified. So our thing is very grassroots, to start at that level, to teach them first more about the diamond, the material themselves, and then let them and their aspirations take them where they want to go with that. Can they be better graders? Can they be sellers? Can they be designers? Can they create other opportunities in the local community? How does that spill over to other businesses in the community? Can they reinvest with their uncle who's got a small shop and make it bigger? You know, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what we're trying to put together. It's a nonprofit at this point, and have been looking for quite a while, partners to enable us to move that forward. So to me, it is a global picture. In the sense that the industry does go from the consumer, from the miner to the consumer and back and forth. It includes all of that. And to limit the discussion just to ourselves and not to be able to disseminate the information like you're saying, or you're saying to the consumer in a way that consumers can make the choices. They'll make the right choices. They will. I trust in that. But it's a huge, it's not so much top down and telling people what they can and can't do. It's a matter of enabling them to be able to make those decisions themselves of what they're going to do. And I personally believe that people do good. And diamonds, I mean, I love diamonds. I've been cutting diamonds my whole life. I've been adding value my whole life. Diamonds are, I mean, quite frankly, I don't know where their power comes from. They're pure carbon, and carbon is the essence of all life. Okay, that's what I can tell you. A diamond is alive, and it can do things, but only when people interact with it, and interact with it properly. So that's my take.
Thank you.
Thanks for the audience.
Okay, so now I just, oh, here we go, please.
Yeah, I can add, I think it's been very fascinating seeing the conversations between industry, national, international, and seeing the dynamics in it. I think one thing I want to say with Martin, what you've done is, I looked at the pictures here, and the discussions that has been happening here has been very interesting, because I think the way that the conversations have gone is necessary for the industry. Like the friction that was here is what actually allows policies, things to change. And I'm just telling you thanks for putting the pictures, because the artisanal mining, the issue of Kimberley certificate and blood diamonds in some level is real at the local level. And when you interact, the interactions between people on a day-by-day and what's happening, it's bigger. Yes, it is a complex system. In fact, it's more of a wicked problem that changes its dynamics every day, every week. So you solve it going back and trying to renew solutions and so it's a continual iteration of the problem and redefining the problem so that you can redefine the solution on a weekly or monthly basis. One thing in terms of adding to what sorry about it. What was your name again? Jenna commented was something interesting about this idea of coordinating, understanding the partnerships that stakeholders' conflict of interest, but also understanding the partnerships that are needed. The idea of scaling deep, scaling wide, and scaling up in terms of we can probably use it as auditing deep, auditing wide, and auditing up. And I think that brings everyone into the conversation, wherein that there is a form of alliance that allows us to really start really tackling this complex systems issue that involves national geopolitics, governments. That's a whole other issue about leaders in the natural resource space. So these are all, I guess my passion is in really natural resource. I'm doing it in natural resource systems at Carnegie Mellon. And my goal in Sierra Leone is to, when you look back at the historical pedagogy of Sierra Leone, understand that in fact, there was a time when the diamonds actually impacted the people, and that the industries invested in the human capital. There was a desire to do that, and we are tackling it in a more leverage point of focusing on investing in human capital and see, does that create the necessary interaction at a local level to then ramify up system levels to national, to government, and potentially international levels. And I always say for me, it's more of a baton, right? It's a generational problem that it's about holding the baton and go for as long as I can, and then let other people take that over. So, but that's our initiative in terms of a big scope, but we start with the baby steps. Big dreams, but very non-scalable interactions, and see where we go with the diamond cutting initiative in Sierra Leone. So I just wanted to thank Martin for the pictures. That was the highlight of my day, because those are real stories, and that's what really happened, and that's what we need to be able to do. How do we get closer to those conversations? And I think that will help us, because the people that are closer to the problems are the ones better equipped to solve the problems. Thanks.
Thank you, excellent. We have a few minutes here, and I wanted to put on